Hi, I'm Eileen Roche, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to today's show. I have a special guest that we're going to introduce in just a minute, but so many of you piping in. I'm really happy to be back. My good friend Dawn at Creative Applique says, welcome back. I was out for a couple weeks, just bad timing, wasn't sick or anything, but Ashley did a fabulous job taking over for me, as you well know if you were here. Yeah, we are down here in North Texas, and we are getting some really bad weather. So fingers crossed we get through this broadcast without a hitch. But Joanne Banko is my guest today, and she is joining me from Ohio, where I understand it's absolutely beautiful today. So let's go ahead and welcome Joanne. Hi.
Hey, Eileen. And now, hello, everyone. Yeah. We're going to stitch up a storm here today, so who cares what the weather's like, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, we just want the power to hold. That's all I care about, right? Because it is a good day in Texas to be home stitching for sure. We have folks from all over. We have them in Michigan and Maryland and Florida and Virginia and Colorado, Tennessee. I love seeing all these friends. Remember how we used to get on an airplane and go and visit these folks all around the country, right?
Yes. And we could only see a few of them then. And so now we get to see so many, which is wonderful.
It really is. It really is. I mean, I miss that, seeing people joining together and, having a lot of fun in person. But, we are able to connect more often and with more people. So it's a nice community that we have going here. It's great.
Definitely. We love it. We love it. We love having everybody here and so many familiar names, but always some new ones too. So welcome to anybody that's here for the first time, and thanks for coming back if you're here often.
That's right. That's right. We do have some newbies to this show, so that's exciting. So anyway, we're going to talk about knits. I mean, you've done a lot of work with dimes through the years. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of, the topic that we're going to talk about today is kind of upscale knits. And that really means kind of revamping knits, adding a little elegance to a plain cami, right?
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite things to do.
And, in 2011, you did this cover garment, this set of pajamas that is probably one of my all-time favorite covers. Look how elegant. Aren't they beautiful?
I still wear them.
I'll bet you do. I'll bet you do. Now, they were not knit. They're a satin. But, in some ways, a satin fabric has some of the challenges that a knit fabric has, in the sense that, you want it to be nice and fluid and supple. And sometimes when you stitch on it, you lose that fluidity. So I love this technique that you're going to share today. It's obviously also applicable to satin or any silky fabric that you don't want to put a lot of stitches on, right?
It's a little bit different. It's definitely, when I was putting together my samples for the show and the different things that I wanted to talk about, I thought so much about how there's never just one way to do things, and so it's always fun to experiment. And I love to be able to teach some techniques that maybe are a little out of the box, so that someday down the road, you're thinking about putting together a project, you go, oh, I remember I saw this. Maybe I should do that.
Right. Yeah. It's another, a way to approach maybe a challenging, topic, right?
Exactly.
Right. Okay. So, but, you've done a lot of work for the magazine through your career. You were a brother educator, a brother ambassador. So that's how we crossed paths initially, right?
Yeah. That's right. We got to work together with some shows and, and then developed, the magazine repertoire, and really enjoyed that. But of course, I've done done some other, collections in
Yeah.
collaboration with
Mhm.
Dime, and I didn't expect you to show those, but there they
Yeah.
are.
Well,
And,
absolutely. Well, Wrapped in
no,
Embroidery is a book that you wrote for Dime, and, it's a beautiful collection of projects and, obviously all about wraps, right?
and timeless, really pretty timeless, because
Mhm.
scarves and wraps are something we've worn for centuries, right? And
Yes.
it's nice to be able to, dress up an outfit with something
Yeah.
a little bit special like that.
Mhm. Absolutely. And then, of course, your Just Jackets, collection, which is applique.
Hmm.
Oh, this has been so popular. In fact, there's reviews on our website. There's 6 different reviews, and they're all 5-star.
Wow.
So,
Oh, I
that's very
appreciate that.
impressive. Yeah, really impressive. So, it's been an awful lot of fun working together through these years. And this week, this is what you're gonna teach us,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah,
There's the little sample up
yeah,
here.
I
A
know.
little knit cami top. It's something
Yeah.
that it's very comfortable to wear, obviously in the summer. But I actually like to make these to wear as a pajama outfit. I will
Mhm.
make or buy
Yeah.
sometimes, depending
Sure.
on what, a pajama bottom, and then buy a camisole top that's plain, and then add the lace embroidery to it to kind of tie it
Nice.
together. It just makes a really cool, comfortable pajama or lounging
Yeah.
outfit. And you could certainly wear this under something if you like.
Yeah.
Looks
Cardigan or,
sweater, jacket. Yep,
sure. Yeah,
absolutely. Yep.
absolutely. Okay, well, in order to make this layout, right? So we really have, well, you don't know this, but there's 4 designs there. I mean, there's 3 designs. It looks like 4, but it's actually 3.
Right.
But I'm going to jump into software and show you how Joanne did that, um, in our software, which is My Lace Maker. That's the software that you chose to use,
I
right?
sure did.
So,
I love playing with my lace maker, and
oh,
you're gonna show something else too that I love playing with, but it's just
yeah.
I just can't get enough of it, because
Oh, I'm glad to hear
it's like a
that.
playground.
It is like a playground. So many designs right at your fingertips. So I'm going to go to, and remember, I am in My Lace Maker software. So I'm going to go to File, Load Backdrop, and that's going to take me to my most recent used folder on my computer. So if you have it stored somewhere else, just search, your folders to find it. And I'm going to load a photograph of the cami. Now, this isn't Joanne's cami. This is one that I had here at the office. And you'll notice I took a photo of it, not very flattering, right? Just on a flat surface with a ruler, a measuring tape laying across it. And that measuring tape doesn't have to be, perfectly aligned or horizontal or vertical. You just make sure you grab that ruler in the image. Okay, and then I am going to select, I'm just going to left click on that little arrow underneath the backdrop tool icon, and I will define my horizon. Now, I did photograph this rather straight, but if I didn't, I would left click, place the cursor on the bottom of the arm opening on the left side, drag it across to the right side, and then let it go. And the image would, rotate a little bit until it is horizontal. But as you can see, mine was already um, pretty flat. So now I want to define the scale. I want this image to be true to size. So I'll hit define scale. And this is why we have that ruler in the image. And I'm going to left click, place my cursor on a line right next to the 5. And you could do any one of them. And I'll go over to the 7. And I know, because I'm in inches, that that's 2 inches. And I'll enter 2 in that field and say OK. And now it's going to change the size to its actual size. Now, when I bring in an embroidery design, all of the scale is correct. So let's go to Lace Designs and click on that. And, there are so many to choose from. There's all of these different options in the menu. Joanne had chose Paisley Border. So I will scroll down and find the one that she chose. And then I can hold down the control key and find that other design that she chose. And I think it's kind of near the bottom. So there it is. And then I'll click OK. And both designs come in.
That's a cool
So
trick. I really like that trick.
isn't that great? So, right now we can see this is definitely not going to stitch properly there, right? It's hanging off the neckline and so forth. So I'm going to move that down. And then I'll take this embroidery design and I'm going to, kind of play with it a little bit until I'm pleased with its position, excuse me. And with that one selected on the left, I can use my shortcuts up here, this icon for copy, and then the one next to it is paste. And I have an exact replica of that first design. With the second one selected, I'll click on mirror image, and now it's in mirror image. So now I'm going to move it over, and I'm going to pay attention that it's kind of, the close proximity. But if I select both of them, notice that the one on the left is the one that I initially placed, and I'm pleased with that. So I want to bring that second one down on the same plane. So I can use my alignment tool to align the bottom. And when I click on that, now it is perfectly aligned.
You just taught me a new trick, Eileen. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I did it
Oh,
a little more intricate way, but yours is much easier and faster.
yeah. There are the more you get comfortable in your software, the
Yeah.
easier it is to use. What's the best thing about software, Joanne? Do you know?
You can't break it.
You can't break it. That's the truth. Like, if I mess this up, who cares? I just
Yeah.
start over. I could do control new file, just start afresh. Okay, so I need to move that design that's selected a little bit more towards the center. So I'll hold down the control key on my keyboard and use those arrows. And look at that. It'll move in tiny little increments. And I'm pretty happy with that. So we can zoom in and get a closer look. Yeah, I think that's great. Now, let's go ahead and select them all and change the color because you want them as one color, right?
Yep, that's
And
correct.
yeah, so just so you can see, it's now all blue because I selected it and then did a left click on the color chip to assign that color. Now, with all three elements selected, I'll right click and I'll select utility and create outline. The default setting for that outline is 0.08. So let's look at that preview. Well, now I'm getting three outlines that kind of overlap. It's not really what we want, right, Joanne? So I'm going to
Right.
increase that spacing to 0.25, and that's just a 1/4 inch, right? And now I hit preview. This is your look, right, Joe?
Yeah, you can even make it bigger if you want to. It's all a matter of what you like. I bet we've got some people here already that are certainly Dime software users and going, "What in the world are they doing? Why aren't they
Yeah,
just stitching that on the shirt?" And
right.
we're going to talk a little bit about that for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, so now I have my outline set, and actually, I'm just going to go back to 25 because my T-shirt, my cami is
Okay,
it's
it's
a deep,
beautiful that way.
it's a deep scoop, unlike yours, which you kind of have a.
Right.
Anyway, so we know. There we go.
Nice to have
Now,
options.
yeah, that is an outline. So because Joanne is going to apply this to the cami, and she's going to walk you through that, she's not really going to applicate it. She's just going to apply it, right, Joanne?
Exactly. Well, from the it's the same technique as the pajama article was, and you
Mhm.
named that one very appropriately. She never hooped it,
Yes, that's right.
meaning I
That
never
was
hooped to the top. So that's absolutely
Mhm.
true.
So right here in My Lace Maker, I can click on column connection, and I'm going to get a satin outline. And the default setting for the width is 3.0. Let's increase that to 4.0, just so we can just take a look at it. We'll hit apply. There we go. And you can see now it's a little beefier, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we'll change that to like the pink. But if you really need an applique, what we would do is then we would go into patch and applique maker. But I just want to travel through this design so you can see how it's going to stitch. It's going to do all that lace, and then it's going to stitch that outline.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all we really need, right? We don't really need an applique, do we, Joanne?
Nope, you just need a satin outline so that your entire edge is finished and you have an edge that you're going to trim alongside. So
Right.
that's what we need.
Okay. So
Yeah,
then I would save to my machine. Oh, well, and if on my brother, I know you're on your Luminaire, right? So you
I
would just
am.
go up here and select send to machine and whew,
That feature
magically.
is the best ever. And I actually work on a Mac computer besides.
You
So
do?
I really appreciate the fact that Dime software works with the computer that I work with every day.
Mhm.
And it makes it such a breeze to send designs over. Like it's a snap.
It really is. It
Works every
really is.
time.
Yeah. And Joanne, you probably work a lot like I do. You're often in your software making a tiny change, and then you want to send it to the machine and stitch it to see if it's going to work, right?
Absolutely.
Well, you know
Absolutely.
what I love about the software? I
Mm.
don't have to save that change. I can just send it and it goes as is. And
Uh-huh.
so then on the machine, if it's how I want it, then I go, the software is still open. I hit control save and I love it.
Very clever.
Because,
Very clever.
when you're testing designs, I'm sure you do that, you have version 1, 2,
It's
3,
always
4.
best to test.
Right, like this week, one design I'm working on literally had 7 versions. Oh, anyway,
Yeah,
just a
exactly.
personal pet peeve, yeah, yeah.
Yep,
Okay,
exactly.
so now we got this far, Joanne, tell us what's next.
Okay, well, what we're actually doing now is we are creating a freestanding grouped piece of lace that we are going to stitch on netting. So the beauty of this technique is when you look at that, it really appears to be floating on the garment. So you don't have the heavy stitches. Obviously, there's lots of other ways that we can do it. We could, stitch freestanding lace by itself and then applique it on, but it that adds a little bit of extra weight because that's being directly applied to the garment. So in this way, all that we're actually applying to the garment is netting. So there you see what I stitched out, what you created in
Yeah.
software. Um,
Mhm.
just want to give you a few of my thoughts as far as what the advantages are. I mean, number one, the software allows you, with that backdrop feature in particular, to design along the actual shape of the neckline. So you can play with different pieces and parts that are, and there, that software, my lace maker, is loaded with designs,
Right,
and as well as many of the other dime programs. So you can play with those designs. The other beauty of this technique is that, given a few parameters, you don't want to stitch anything really big and bulky, but you can play with a lot of other designs that normally you would never stitch as lace, or you would never stitch directly on a fine garment like that. So by creating a layout, stitching it on netting, basically turning it into an off-site embroidered piece that you are then going to applique on the sewing side of your machine. It's just there's a lot of benefits. You can mix and match the elements. You can leave space in between. You can visualize the whole design group before you add it.
yeah.
Bridal tool comes in so many different colors. So I suggest you actually take your garment, if it's already made, or your fabric if you're making it, and go into the netting department. I keep calling it netting. It's bridal tool. You want the
Right.
tool, very
Mhm.
light and very soft, and then lay it on your fabric and see how it matches. My particular preference and the way I hoop it, I didn't have a dime magnetic hoop in an 8 by 12 size, or I certainly would have used
Oh,
that. So I had to go through a little bit of shenanigans there and put those T-pins along the edge to keep
yeah.
everything tight. But I did another whole sample earlier today, and I did it on my dime magnetic hoop, and I had absolutely smooth sailing. So if you're using the dime magnetic hoops, you won't have to go through any of those extra
Oh,
shenanigans.
that's great
But
to hear, great to hear.
take that bridal tool, lay it on your fabric, get into good lighting. We all know sometimes fabric stores don't have good lighting in the aisles you're in. So get into good lighting and see if it matches. Believe it or not, sometimes you're going to need an alternative shade. I had a really unusual garment I did once. It was a knit blazer, and it was yellow, and I embroidered designs for the lapel that I did with the same method, where I created an applique. And I thought a pale yellow bridal tulle was going to be perfect. It turns out a like a neutral flesh tone color laid on there better, and you really wanted the netting to kind of disappear, basically.
Right. Really just fade into the background.
Yeah. The other great advantage of this is that it allows for easy placement. Now, yes, you could with, with your applique function in my applique, my patch and applique maker, you could create a piece that you then applique onto the garment, but that is going to add a little bit of extra weight because all of the satin stitching is going to have to form on the garment.
Sure.
And you laid out perfectly, as I did with mine, the whole idea that getting something that close to the neckline can be very tricky for hooping. Even with all of our wonderful, extra hoops, it's still this way. You just simply make the piece and it's easy to layer on. And
So we have a question from Joanne T. She says, are you
Yeah.
embroidering the tulle or manually stitching it on? So it's kind of a combination, Joanne T. She's a hooping tulle with sew and wash, which is, a water soluble wash away stabilizer.
Yep.
And a layer of bridal tulle.
Right.
And then she is manually stitching that onto the garment. And she's going to show you. So
exactly. Yep. So I was heading towards that. My recipe for this, once you've made your design and you've got your bridal tulle that matches, is I create a sandwich. So I use the dime sew and wash stabilizer. That is my first layer. So that's my first piece of bread. And then I actually like to use, in most cases, 2 layers of bridal tulle. 1 layer might be okay, and you can test it, but I like to use 2. So I lay down 2 layers of that, and then a second layer of the wash away water soluble. So that's my sandwich. The bread is the water soluble stabilizer. The bologna is the bridal tulle.
bologna and cheese, really.
Yeah. So then once it's stitched and I have trimmed all of the excess bridal tulle away from that satin stitch edging, I am left with this. So you can still see the actual stabilizer. So just a little tip for you. I'm going to show a piece. I'm going to stitch a piece on the machine in just a few minutes here, but you could certainly take your piece as it is right now before you wash out the stabilizer and do the actual application onto your garment now. It'll have a little bit more stability. Usually in photos or on camera, it looks a little prettier if I have that all dissolved away so that you can see the garment underneath, but you certainly could do it at this point and then wash everything away. So I wanted you to see the front side. I used the beautiful embroidery thread from my friends at Dime. I love this exquisite thread, and I know you're going to be featuring some different things along the line of thread today. So I used some really pretty, nice, bright, cool, summery colors. And I used embroidery thread in the top, but I used regular white bobbin thread in the bobbin. If your machine is balanced out properly, you should be able to just use bobbin thread in this case, because you're not going to see the wrong side of the motifs.
And Joanne, Barbara Smith had a question. Do you lay the second layer of tulle perpendicular to the first?
Tulle has no right, wrong, grain, doesn't matter. It can be any which way.
Any which way. Yeah.
You don't have to worry about it.
It's kind of all bias, really, right?
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
So,
yeah.
Okay. And I don't have that photo of the back, but okay.
Oh, that's okay. Well, I just want to clarify that then when I did do the satin stitching, so that satin outline, at that point, I did go ahead and for my pink, I actually matched pink bobbin wound with the exquisite embroidery thread so that
Okay.
so that you have a good match there, because
Yeah,
you know, satin stitching is a little bit different than the stitching you do for the motif. So
sure.
hopefully it all makes sense so far. We'll certainly take questions if there's any questions.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so that now it's time to mark your cami, right?
Yeah, I just marked the center with pins, so I had an idea. Now I want to, you know me, I always like to give these little extra little tips because it's so helpful. If you've ever done a knit garment, maybe any garment, in all likelihood, you're going to find out, especially when it is a ready-made, it is not always perfectly symmetrical. So
Mhm.
find a spot that your eye is going to fall on. Generally speaking, that's going to be right at the neckline, and that center point there is more important than any other center point, because
That's right.
your side scoops or your armholes
Yeah,
or your side seams might be a little off. Just pick a
that's
spot
right.
and go with it.
Right, and
Don't worry about the rest.
especially on a cami, because that's a hard line against the skin, and that
Exactly.
is what the eye will be drawn to. So that's your point of reference. That's a good suggestion. I love that.
Exactly.
Mhm. Yeah.
So the rest is really easy. Really easy. Do we have, yep, there you go. I pinned it on.
Mhm.
And just give you another little tip. I like to use ballpoint pins. Whoever knew that we would have so many pins in our life? But if you've
Right.
been pin shopping lately, you know that there's a pin for every purpose.
Right. And we needed them, obviously.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
there are actually ballpoint pins. So just like I use a stretch needle, which is a semi ballpoint when I sew on knits,
Mhm.
when I pin knits, I use a ballpoint pin because you have less chance of it poking a hole that could turn into a run on a knit. So I've just
Right.
got it all pinned in place there.
Yeah.
I'll give you another little tip on pinning. If you, I like to do it on a dress form because that fills out the shape
Mhm.
of the garment. If you have a little bit of trouble that you're afraid you're going to pin through to the actual, you know, form or the padding on the form, you can
Mhm.
slip a little piece of manila folder underneath
Mm.
behind it, and that'll act like a little barrier, and then you could just pin into that, so it just keeps you from
Yeah.
going too far through. So
And the reason to put it on the dress form is because you do want that knit to stretch,
right, you want
because
it to
that's
fit
how it's
the form of the
gonna
body.
right. Otherwise, when if you don't do that and you sew it on and then you go to put it on, it'll pop,
Right.
right?
It might be in an off position.
Yeah.
So yes, I see
Mhm.
somebody asking what's the difference between a ballpoint and a stretch needle.
Yeah.
Barbara, ballpoint needles are really designed for thicker knits, more like double knits. A stretch needle is more appropriate for finer knits. So stretch needle has a little bit slimmer tip. The ballpoint's
Mhm.
a little bit larger, to put it kind of simply. So
Okay. Good to
yeah.
know. Yeah. Retha Ranke, you do know Retha, she's a regular here. She just bought a dress form and she's
Oh,
loving
that's
it.
wonderful.
It does really
Well,
help elevate your sewing. It
I'm
does.
telling you, I love my real dress form here.
Yeah, I'll
The
bet.
other one is kind of a that the pictures on is kind of
Mm,
a cheapie that I covered and kind of,
yeah,
you know, tried to make it work. But if you can get a good dress form, you will do
mm,
yourself a big favor.
absolutely. Okay,
Definitely.
so then we just wanna take a look at the, front when it's finished.
Yeah. Look how
Yeah,
pretty that looks. It
it's very
just
pretty. Yeah,
floats right on there. And then
and
there's the back. That's what's going to go against your skin. You don't
mhm,
have any itchies, you don't have any scratchies. If anybody, I'm going to pre-think for somebody. I wonder if anybody's out there thinking, "Oh, why wouldn't you just use monofilament thread?" Well, monofilament thread, the clear thread, can sometimes be a little bit feel a little bit like prickers against your
oh,
skin.
for
So
sure.
I love just using my
Yeah,
embroidery thread. The same
yeah,
embroidery thread that I use for the
right.
stitching is what I use for
It's
the applique part.
so comfortable next to the skin. The monofilament, I use that in quilting, but I can't tell you how many blouses I've purchased and they're sewn like that. And
Yeah.
all day I'm like, and then I realize, oh, it's monofilament thread that they stitch that with.
Yeah.
And it's
It's
very uncomfortable.
not very good for garments, in my
Yeah.
opinion. So
No, I would
that
agree.
just gives a really smooth smooth look. And like I said, because you don't have the anything other than a little zigzagging around there,
Yeah.
it's very, very lightweight and very soft.
Great. And yet it has a lot of impact. So let's go ahead and see this in action.
Okay,
Ready?
give me
Alright.
a second to switch over
Okay.
to the machine. Got to switcheroo my cameras here.
All right.
Okay, so the first thing I want to tell you is I just have this set for a basic zigzag. I do suggest you test it a little bit. You may want to make yourself a little. I'm just going to work with a little sample piece here, but you may want to, do a little testing on a little sample piece of lace that you make that's similar, that's smaller, so that you can see what kind of zigzag you need. It depends on how many curves you have. If you've got a lot of really sharp curves, you're probably going to want a zigzag that's a little bit narrower. But at this point, you can see what I've done is I've trimmed off all of my, or I've washed out all of my water soluble. And now it's time to trim away my netting. And I have to tell you, one of my favorite things for this is using my Perfect Vision dime magnifying lamp. And I have this just clamped to the lid of my machine, so you really can't see it, unfortunately, in the position it's in. And I just want you to know that is what I'm actually going to use. I'm going to have that all lit up. I'm going to turn the switch on here so that it lights up. And you can actually see how bright that is. It lit up that whole box. And now I can bring this down, and I can use this when I'm trimming my lace. So just to give you a little bit of an idea there, I need to bend it just a little bit more. That's the beauty of it. It has great bendability, but I can get that into position, and look at how that lights up the piece and magnifies it at the same time. Now, I'm using my favorite little Karen K. Buckley curved
Mm,
tip micro tip scissors, and I'm just going to start trimming around here. You want to trim as close as possible. You want to trim up to, but not through the netting. And remember, we've matched our netting. I'm not going to try to be too perfect today. We don't. It's hard to be too perfect on camera, isn't it, Eileen? But
I know it's hard what you're
we've
trying to
matched our
do.
netting to our fabric, so it should kind of, disappear or
Mhm.
float on there. I'm going a little bit on the wide side today just because I'm gonna bring this down a little bit.
Yes. So we have a question from Elizabeth Dickerson, and she wants to know if you've ever used a heat tool to melt away the netting.
Oh, that's a
So
great question. I have used a heat tool to melt away organza, never netting. I'm sure it probably would work the
yeah.
similarly on it. I just
Mhm.
haven't found it to be necessary. Heat tools can be a little scary, and if you're good with it, that's
Yeah.
fine. If
Right.
you're really comfortable with it, but
Yeah.
a good
Good.
pair of curved tip sharp scissors works just as well. This is also the
Right.
kind of thing you can do when you're sitting somewhere, and it's a little hard to get that into position to see. So hopefully
But yeah, right there,
that
we're
shows
really
you what I
seeing
did there.
yeah,
Okay.
we're definitely seeing that.
Yeah. And that would allow me to trim that really, really, really well. Okay.
Right.
So I'm
Very
gonna
nice. Very
just
nice.
lift that up a little bit. I'm still using that Perfect Vision lamp to give me a little extra light at my machine. But now I'm just simply going to layer that on my fabric. Oh, I'm not in. Looks like my camera got jiggled a little
Yeah,
bit.
I
I'm
got a
gonna
little
move.
jiggled, so what's it
There we
just
go.
you'll get it reset, and we're
Does that
patient.
look good?
They're all talking amongst themselves. Maybe if you could move it just a little bit more to the left so we see like the sewing foot is just at the edge of the screen.
All
There
right.
you
There
go.
we
That's a
go.
little better.
Got it
Great.
all set, but I must have bumped it. I must have bumped
Yeah,
it.
that's okay.
The challenges of sewing with a camera between your
Oh,
body and your machine.
absolutely. It's not easy to do. It is not. It's like, Fred and Ginger, right? She's always
Exactly.
doing everything backwards in high
Exactly.
heels. It's kind of the same thing.
All right, you let me know if you can see that okay. So I have got on my regular presser foot shank for sewing, and I've got on a clear, I'm going to take this off just to show it to you a little bit better. My clear decorative stitching foot, which has a nice little line right in the middle. Now, different machines are going to be a little bit different, but just about every machine will have an option for a foot that allows you to do decorative stitching. In this case, we're going to do zigzagging, but it has a little bit of a groove on the bottom, so it slides over a little bit of bulk, and that's exactly what we need to slide over the little bit of extra thickness that we have with that satin stitching. And then
Sure.
having that line in the center is going to help me line things up to make sure that I catch the whole edge there, and I just want to nip it is really what I want to do.
Right.
You'll also notice that I'm using a closed toe version. They do make open toe versions of this foot. I
Mhm.
find that the open toe doesn't put enough pressure right here where you need it. Oops,
Mhm.
that camera is behaving badly today. Let me, sorry about that.
That's okay. It's fine. So, but while you're getting set, one of our friends who joined in, I guess, a little bit, Alicia Evans, she said, so you embroidered on netting. And Alicia, she embroidered on bridal tulle. So the difference between netting and tulle is that tulle is finer, it's more delicate, it's more comfortable next to the skin. Think of netting as what they would use in a hat or a fascinator, right? Something that really holds its shape, unlike a veil that we want to drape and be really fluid. So yes,
Exactly.
she did do all of her embroidery on the bridal tulle, hooped, and she used 2 layers of tulle and hooped that with Sew and Wash, which is a water soluble stabilizer. Adds, gives it this foundation that it needs during the stitching and then just washes away. It's awesome.
All right,
Okay, we're
I'm going to
ready.
go ahead and stitch. So you can see I am using a totally contrasting color because I want you
Okay,
to be able to see this when I'm done, but I'm just
okay.
nipping the edge just so it's biting.
Yeah. So how wide is your zigzag?
My
That you
zigzag for this is a width of 2 and my length is 3. So you
Okay.
definitely want to play around with both
Yeah.
width and length because it's going to
Mhm.
the funny thing about a zigzag is when you change the width, it kind of changes the length.
Mhm.
Strange as that may sound, but I'm going to show this again up close
Okay.
when I'm done, and you're going to see exactly what it looks like. Hopefully I catch everything. Again,
Yeah.
the joy of sewing with a camera in between you and the machine is a foot away instead of a few inches. But
Right. It's kind of like sewing blinders on, right?
we always find a way to make it work. And as long as you get the gist of it and you know what I'm doing, because I'm telling you what I'm doing, hopefully seeing it, you can add up the words with the with the images and get a
Sure.
good picture. So
Sure.
really easy though. And I do
Yeah.
have another setting on my machine that if you have this setting, it will become your best friend. It's called a pivot function. And if
Mhm.
you notice, when I stop sewing, my foot raises up
Oh,
just enough to allow me to pivot around, but my needle stays in the fabric so I don't lose my place. So that is definitely a feature you want to engage if you have it when
and
you're
so is
doing
that
this.
built in on the Luminaire, or is
It
that
is, yes.
like an upgrade or what?
It's actually found in quite a few. As a brother ambassador, obviously, I've had the opportunity to work with a variety of machines and
Mhm.
different models, but it is built into a lot of machines these days. So it's a very popular feature.
Mhm. And how do you access it? Like,
It's right
where's
on the front of the screen. It's just a
I don't
picture of a presser foot and a needle. And when you
Okay.
touch that, it turns dark, which means it's activated.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
So,
So
many of us have these beautiful top of the line machines that we embroider on all the time, but we forget that they sew too. There's so many
absolutely. And
wonderful sewing features.
that's one of the reasons I wanted to show this sewing process because, we have so many capabilities and it's a shame to only use half of your machine.
Yeah. Right.
And,
Exactly.
the other
Yeah.
thing is that if you are an avid embroiderer, you know, sometimes you want to start out easy. Well, this is very easy sewing. It's a simple zigzag. I tied off my stitch by pressing my tie off button. I cut the thread now, and I'm going to bring it forward to the
Oh,
camera.
look.
So
Okay, so that contrasting thread, you selected that on purpose so we could really see the stitch.
yes,
Otherwise, it wouldn't be visible at all.
if I would have used this thread that is the
Mhm.
same color as my fabric,
Yep.
basically the same color as my netting, and the
Right.
same color as my outline satin stitching,
Yeah.
it would just blend right in. But I wanted you to
Right.
see it, and I'm going to flip it
Yep.
over to the wrong side. I'm going
Mhm.
to just give you another little extra tip. May or may not have noticed that I did this on a base of, again, the wash away stabilizer, the
Right.
sew and wash
Mhm.
from Dime. And that's just, you know, it's just another tip for you. If you're using a piece where everything has been washed out, or
Yes.
you have a particularly stretchy knit, this is a rib
Mhm.
knit.
Mhm.
Um, it doesn't hurt to use a layer of this just
Right.
as a base, and it's basically stabilizing that knit so that while you're stitching, you don't have to worry about it moving. But look at how nice and neat that is on the back side.
Yeah,
Just
it's so delicate. I mean, look at
there
that
you
heavy embroidery. I mean, literally, that's pretty heavy embroidery, and on
Yeah,
a knit
it sure
garment.
is. And
Yeah, that would
you feel this, it just feels, it's flexible. Even the fact that it's floating on there allows it, I think, to conform even a little bit better to the shape of your body
yeah.
and when you're
Uh-huh.
wearing the garment. So,
Just gorgeous, Joanne. What a fun technique. What a fun
all right,
technique.
I'll come back to the other side here.
Okay. Okay. We kinda
Ah,
lost
there I
Joanne.
am.
There you
Too
are.
many
Awesome.
cameras.
I know. You know, not only do you have to sew, but you have to be your own director and producer and, oh,
Yeah.
all of it, right?
Absolutely. Yep. So
Not
I hope,
easy.
you know, I'm getting ready to audition something on this
Okay.
one. I'll show you.
Yeah.
I've actually popped this out of the hoop and just show you the next one I have here ready to roll. This is a grouping from the Just
Oh,
Jackets collection.
lovely.
So again,
Very
you can
nice.
so many ways to use this technique. And then
Yeah.
once that's cut, I can simply, you know, try that on. Obviously, I would do all the trimming, but
Yes.
you can play around with placement, and it just makes it really, really easy. This is also give me an opportunity to just show you the netting
Okay.
so that you can see how
Mhm.
fine this is.
Right. And look at that.
Tool. I got to say
Right.
tool. It's
Yeah.
tool. Look
Yeah.
how fine that is.
Mhm.
And just by taking that, I'll just do this one more little show here. Look at how I'm laying the netting right over
Oh,
that fabric,
yeah.
and
Can't
that's
see that
telling me
at
that
all.
it's the perfect match.
Right. Definitely can't see that.
Nope, just
Mhm.
disappears,
Yeah.
floats.
Very nice. Just beautiful. So wearable.
Very wearable, very
Mhm.
comfortable,
Mhm.
very fun technique, very fun.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I hope our viewers today will, take the opportunity to play around with it a little bit. I think
I
you'll enjoy
hope
it.
so. Yeah, so let's go to the overhead cam and see some, of those colorful stitches, right?
Oh,
So
beautiful.
yeah, so here's our summer collection, our 24 collection of exquisite thread. And now this is Joanne's same design layout and on a pink cami. I used a bone tool, but you really can't see
Yeah,
that. You can't see
yeah.
that. It's
No,
just
that
a
melts right on there. It
it
just
really
melts.
does. So that's a great choice. Um, and then I wanted to show you some of the other colors in the collection of 24. They're really summery and nice and bright. I did this lace trim. I used one, two, three, four different colors. And, you know, I did like from pale yellow, orange, all the way to a deepest orange, and then light pink, a brighter pink, and kind of a rose, and almost to a burgundy. So,
Beautiful.
yeah, and here's your layout again, same thing. I mean, there's so much fun, but why don't we take a look at the actual spools that come in the 24 kit? So here we have um, 12 that are do they just scream summer or what? I mean,
They do.
yeah. In Ohio, everything in bloom now?
Just about. Yeah, it's getting there.
Yeah. Well, here in Texas, this is what our gardens are looking like, full blown color for sure. And in another 2 months, everything will be really faded, kind of browned out. But right now, it is summer. And don't be afraid of these real bright ones. They're so much fun. And they look great with swimwear and all kinds of fun
Yeah.
different outfits that people like to wear in the summer. And it's always great to add a little embroidery, put your own personal touch on these blanks that are kind of boring, right?
Absolutely. And they're plentiful though. There's so many of them out there
There
in
are.
so many colors, and
Yeah.
you can, you could just use whatever you want to match or contrast. I got to tell you, I didn't tell you this before, but I got
Oh,
my summer threads all packed up, ready
okay.
to go. I have a retreat in a couple weeks with 15 friends
Okay.
in Southern Ohio, and so
Oh,
I hope to make some patches while I'm there. And
okay.
I love these bright colors
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
using with all the patch products that
Oh,
Dime
wow.
has.
Yeah, we're actually doing patches here next week. So
Oh,
this
great.
retreat, are you teaching or is it really just friends
It's
and you're just
it's
all going
it's
to sew
pretty
together?
much just friends having fun. I'll do a
Mm,
couple demos, and then I
okay.
bring in a speaker or two to entertain them. We had
Oh,
a speaker that talked about the history of the area last year,
yeah.
and I've got
Uh-huh.
a lady this year who's a quilting expert, and she's bringing quilts for show and tell. And yeah,
Wonderful.
but it's a
How
lot of
many
fun.
days? How many days?
We're there Thursday through Sunday. We arrive
Okay.
Thursday, we leave Sunday.
Oh,
And
I
it's in
hope you're
a hotel that dates back to 1847. The room
Oh,
that we're in at one time was an old drugstore, and it's got these
oh,
beautiful walls, and it's really special, really
oh,
special
that's
place.
awesome. Well, that's
Millersburg, Ohio.
Millersburg.
Yeah.
Okay.
The heart of Amish country.
Okay, how do I know Millersburg? Is there a university there? No?
No, but there's a dime dealer there.
Oh, maybe that's how I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
A
that's
very good
definitely
dime
how
dealer there.
yeah,
Yes.
okay, right. Okay. Well, our thread is, oh my goodness, it comes in 288 colors, and if you're new to dime exquisite thread, then purchasing these kits that are 24 spools and a curated collection of colors is a good way to build your library of color
Yeah.
because thread is your paint, right, Joe?
Absolutely. And I have to tell you, I mean, everybody that knows me knows I say what I mean and mean what I say. I am totally in love with exquisite thread. It is my top pick.
Oh,
I had a lady recently who was just dabbling in her first embroidery projects, and her first question was, "What thread do I buy?" And that was
yeah.
my first answer.
Right. Oh,
You
well,
just
I
can't.
appreciate your comments, but
Oh,
we've
it's the
learned from
best.
dealers that, you know, now think of yourself, if put yourself in a sewing machine retailer's shoes, right? And when
Mhm.
they're trying to showcase their machines, they want to depend on a thread that is absolutely going to run flawlessly.
You
They
got it.
don't want to run a design when they're trying to show their machine and have the thread shred or break. That's horrifying. So we have so many dealers that just rely on
Yeah.
exquisite only because they have confidence in it and they know it's going to run beautifully.
It
So
it's absolutely, absolutely the truth. I can't recommend it more highly.
yeah, and it's value based. I mean, it's
Very
very
much so.
affordable, and like in fact, our special this week is all 24 spools for 79.99, and that ships
Wow.
free. So that's really great. And they do have snap spools. So on the bottom, which I always forget to hear, we'll go to the overhead so we can showcase that. But you know, you open this up and that's how you store your thread tails. So you don't have to have thread tails falling all over the place. You just wind it into that slot and then snap it shut. And then, nice and tidy on your rack and your storage case, or however it is that you display it. So
I love
love
that
that.
feature.
I do too. I do too, because, it gets everywhere, right? And when you're vacuuming at home,
Oh my.
right? So
Anything to make things neater and easier,
yeah,
I'm all in.
I'm all into. I'm all into. And it is it's a polyester thread, just so you understand. It's 40 weight, which is your basic standard weight for embroidery thread. And it's color fast because it's polyester, so it's going to last for a very long time. And it's sheen. I have taught this, um, well, all over the country, but specifically one of the last times I was out was in St. Louis at dealer training, and they all thought it was a metallic. I mean, that's how
Wow.
it
It
sparkled.
yeah, it's so
Really good.
shiny.
Mhm.
So shiny. That
So
makes
sharp.
your embroidery designs pop. Totally
Yeah,
pop.
totally
That
pop.
that
Yeah,
extra shine.
right. And with 288 colors, it's all about the palette, right? So you have lots of options there. And we know as a consumer, you have to build over time,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
You can't all start out with 288 colors, but that is tempting.
You know what? You can never have too much thread, and it's a lot like, I think it's kind of like going to a candy store. Buy thread instead of candy, and there's no calories, and you won't have to
Right.
go to the dentist.
That's right. Exactly. I love that. I love that. And it's rewarding, right? It just fills your wall, and it's exciting.
It looks pretty.
Yeah. Well, Joanne, what else is up? What's coming up for you besides your retreat? What else do you have
Oh,
in
some different live shows. I think we'll be on some probably on crossing paths on some live shows in the near future. And I'm also teaching some classes locally, so I like
Yeah,
to do a little bit of both.
great. And I know you're going to be back here with Ashley Jones on June 27th.
Yes, yes. Well,
Yeah,
Ashley and I are working together on a project, and we're going to be presenting it the last Thursday in June, I believe it is. So
right.
I'm
And
excited about
and a
that.
couple days before that, she'll be your guest on Let's Go Sew,
Yes,
correct?
I do. I
Yeah.
have a show the fourth Monday of every month
Mhm.
at 7 p.m. It's called So Tell Me on my Let's Go Sew with Joanne Banko YouTube channel and Facebook as well. And then I usually do another show during the month that I call Tea and Tutorials. That's usually on a Friday or a Saturday, but it's a little not as planned as the other ones. And
Mhm.
we sip tea, and
Oh,
I either myself or I have a guest on that teaches some tutorials. So
oh, that's
those are
awesome.
fun too.
Yeah.
Can
Well,
I share one more little tip with the thread? Because this is a
absolutely.
really cool tip.
Yeah, I love it.
Um,
Go ahead.
this cone thread is perfectly sized for the little tiny caps that a lot of people ignore when they get their machine. So if you have this type of cap, you put that right into the exquisite thread, and it
Uh-huh.
will keep that thread firm and stable on your spool pin. It will
Oh.
not move. You don't have to worry about the thread spinning off the back. It keeps it nice and tight, and it fits absolutely perfect. I don't know any other spool that this fits so perfectly on.
Oh,
So,
I love that.
yes,
Thank you.
really
Yeah,
works
I
well.
didn't know that myself, so I'm happy
Had
to
to
hear
share
that.
that tip.
That's great. Everybody's always learning from Joanne. Every time, for sure. Like Diane Dishman said, she, learning something new every time she watches. She'll need to get some stretch needles. So yeah, we're always learning from you. It's great. Yeah,
Well, I enjoy teaching. You know that. You do
absolutely.
such a beautiful job teaching and inspiring people, and we all know that's what it's all about on our end of it. Is to share that knowledge.
It really is. I think our purpose in life is to find our skills and use them and then share them. So that's why we're here.
And we learn from our friends here too. There's always
Oh, yeah.
always
Mhm.
some great tips, and boy, I see a lot of people that are totally sold on on all the dime thread as well. So we're
Right,
all
for
we're all happy
sure.
campers here when it comes to that.
Yeah. Well, before we talk about what's coming up next, I want to say to Retha Ranke, it sounds like she had a near miss in an auto accident, and
Oh,
so we're so
Rita.
glad that you were, you're safe
Oh,
and
sending
that
you
you held
hugs,
the way through
Rita.
that. Yeah, and so next week I'm gonna be back, and we're gonna be doing patches. We're gonna have a whole lot of fun with that. Some of them will be patriotic, and others will be have a little HTV on them and embroidery thread. Oh, we're just gonna have a blast. So I hope you'll join me
Oh,
then.
can't wait.
And the following, well, not quite the following week, but yeah, on Tuesday the 21st, Ashley Jones will host her Getting Started with Embroidery Toolshed Plus on her Software Success show. So Embroidery Toolshed Plus is a software program that is, you do need to purchase it. It's an elevated version of our Embroidery Toolshed. So if you remember, Embroidery Toolshed is our free software that anybody can download for free, and it allows you to resize design, copy, paste, and print templates, right? But Embroidery Toolshed Plus has some more features, including text and monogramming, and the ability in the text feature to arc lettering. It's really very reasonably priced, and I think you will just love it. So join Ashley on May 21st to see what that's all about.
I've learned so much from Ashley's shows. I enjoy every minute of those.
Oh, I do too. I think we all do. We always learn from each other. And Ashley she's a wizard. So just thrilled to have her on our team. And you don't want to miss any of Between Friends or Software Success. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel and like us on Facebook. That way we know you like the content that we're providing. And you'll also be notified when we're going live next. We want to see what you've been doing. So please share on social media your projects and tag them with the hashtag #DimeSewAlong on the house and Exquisite Friends. So let's go ahead, or Exquisite Thread, sorry. So let's go ahead and
Exquisite Thread.
Yeah, right. So let's go ahead and see what you've been stitching. Aren't they great? Some of those projects.
Fabulous.
I know. I love seeing it. And viewers, you can take advantage of these free designs. They're free every week. The projects, all the designs, they stay up all year. But we encourage you to, go to the website and download it today so that you stay current instead of trying to do, 52 weeks, the last week in January. Right? Yeah. So this week's free design is butterflies and tulips. And isn't that lovely in the watering can?
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah. And if you'll notice, we've had a really lovely floral theme going through May. So I did see one of our viewers who shared on social media. She did a table runner featuring a couple of those designs. So I love how people are putting that together.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. So Joanne, I just want to thank you for joining me today. It was so insightful, and I think people really enjoyed this project. It's a great way to embellish a stretchy knit and still be comfortable.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun presenting it. If anybody has any more questions for me, you'll always find me at letsgosew.com, and I'd be thrilled if you sign my email list. I sign up for email. I send out a note every weekend and keep you up on what's going on. So that's always so much to share.
Absolutely. Thanks, Joanne. Bye, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Happy stitching.